Welcome to the Clusters tour of the U.S. Cluster Mapping Portal. First, let's go to the Clusters landing page by highlighting Cluster in the navigational bar at the top. Then, click. This is the Clusters page, which introduces users to what clusters are and how they function at national, regional, and local levels. A cluster is a regional concentration of related industries that arise out of the various types of linkages or externalities that span across industries in a particular location. As this diagram explains, there are two types of clusters: traded clusters, which are in a teal color across the site, and local clusters, which are shown in a blue color across the site. Traded clusters are clusters that compete in and serve markets in other regions. We tend to refer to traded clusters as the engines of regional economies because research shows that they are critical for driving high levels of prosperity in a region. Examples of these industries include management consulting and aircraft manufacturing. Local clusters are clusters that serve the local market. They are the foundation of local economies, critical for retaining and sharing the prosperity generated in a region. Examples include drugstores and elementary schools. While local clusters account for most of the employment and employment growth in regional economies, traded clusters register higher wages and much higher levels of innovation. Local clusters provide necessary services for the traded clusters in a region, and both are needed to support a healthy and prosperous regional economy. As you scroll down the page, you will be presented with two ways of viewing the cluster's data. The first is by National Performance Indicators, which can be selected by clicking on the Employment, Wages, Job Creation, Specialization, Timeline, or Innovation gray buttons. The Employment tab populates the bar chart of employment by all traded clusters in the U.S. You can interact with and customize the chart to display different years. By clicking on a year at the top, the chart will automatically update to reflect your selection. On any of these charts, clicking on a bar on the chart will give you more detailed information about a cluster, as well as links into a specific dashboard of data for that cluster. You can also switch your view of employment to local clusters by clicking on the Local button on the top right. Please note that you can download an Excel spreadsheet of the data underlying any chart or map on the site by clicking on the arrow icon located on that page. You may also capture an image of any chart or map you view by clicking on the image icon. Some charts or maps also offer an embed code you can use to add that particular image onto your own online platform. Every chart has a unique URL that you can link to and share. Each of these viewing features is also available on the Wages tab and the Job Creation tab. The Job Creation chart, however, allows you to select a range of years to look at the absolute number of jobs gained or lost for a specific cluster. The chart is defaulted to 1998 to 2011, but you can change the start and end years by hovering over either 1998 or 2011 and horizontally moving the arrow resize cursor that appears. The dates will expand as new data become available. The Specialization tab displays a scatter plot that measures the national employment shares of clusters in the U.S. against the change in national employment share. To zoom in on a part of the chart, hover over the chart and use the crosshair cursor to drag and select a box around the part that you want to zoom in on. You can also click on any of the cluster circles for more information about the cluster and a link to that cluster's dashboard. Just like the Job Creation chart, you can adjust the range of years that you wish to see. The Timeline tab displays a graph illustrating employment and the number of establishments by traded clusters over time. You can switch between these two options by clicking on the Employment Establishment buttons on the top right. Each portion of the graph represents a specific traded cluster, and the graph itself displays change over time within each cluster. You can click on any portion of the graph for more information about a specific cluster or a link to that cluster's dashboard. Finally, the Innovation tab displays a scatter plot that measures the national share of utility patents awarded by cluster in the U.S. against the change in the share of U.S. utility patents awarded by cluster from 1998 to 2011. Similar to previous tabs, this chart provides viewing functionality that allows you to zoom in and/or adjust the range of years in which you are interested. You can also click on any of the cluster circles for more information about the cluster and a link to that cluster's dashboard, as well as a link to the innovation chart for this cluster, which displays a scatter plot of the share of utility patents awarded by state against the change in the share of utility patents awarded by state for this particular cluster from 1998 to 2011. The second way of viewing the cluster data is through a visual listing of each of the 51 traded clusters and the 16 local clusters, which you saw when you first scrolled down the cluster page. To get to this list now, simply click on the Cluster tab on the navigation bar at the very top of this page. Scrolling down, you will see a list of the 51 traded clusters in alphabetical order, alongside a list of the 16 local clusters. You can click on any of the cluster circles for more information about the cluster and a link to that cluster's dashboard. Please note that these clusters have been defined based upon data covering the entire U.S. economy. They may not necessarily align with cluster names or concepts used in certain regions. The value this project brings is to provide a set of nationally consistent clusters that enable comparisons between many regions. By drawing from these clusters, regions can then better understand their own specific clusters. To navigate into specific clusters, you simply click on a cluster bubble. In this case, let's look at aerospace and defense. When you select the link to the dashboard for that cluster, it is organized into Summary, Top Regions, Subclusters, and Organizations tabs. The Summary tab that we are on shows a preview of the entire contents of this section. The national map at the top is controlled by a drop-down menu that gives you the ability to change the economic indicators, date range, and region type. Below the map, you can type in a specific region by name or a zip code within a region, and you will go to that region's dashboard within the Aerospace and Defense cluster. Scrolling down further on the summary page, we see a preview of the top regions section, displaying the top 10 regions by employment for the aerospace cluster. The timeline at the top of this section allows you to view data for a particular year. You can choose to view the cluster employment data by state, economic area, MSA, or county by clicking on the tabs on the top right of this section. When you click on one of the region bars in this chart, you will see an actual employment number for aerospace and defense in that particular region, as well as a link to that region's aerospace and defense cluster dashboard. At the bottom of this section, there is a link to the actual top regions page for the aerospace and defense cluster, which contains the full chart and additional data. Further down, the next summary page section is a preview of the subclusters associated with the aerospace and defense cluster. This is a chart of the employment for each of the subclusters contained in the aerospace cluster, in this case, aircraft, search and navigation equipment, and missiles and space vehicles. By clicking on any of the subcluster bars in the chart, you can choose between two links. The Explore Industries links brings you to a page displaying the national data for employment, number of establishments, and annual payroll, along with the NAICS code for that individual subcluster. The second link brings you to the dashboard for that particular subcluster. There is also a link at the bottom to the actual subclusters page, which includes the national map and additional data. The next section is the related clusters visualization. Some of the features of the site are still in progress, including this one, although it looks like we've updated it. On the very bottom of the summary page, there is no specific information on related organizations, related blog posts, and related resources. Although, you can register on the site for free using the registration button on the top right of the navigation bar, and you may add a related organization, blog post, or resource yourself, and apply regional and cluster tags as appropriate. For example, if your edition is relevant to the Aerospace and Defense cluster in Snohomish County, Washington, you can tag it accordingly and it will populate on the relevant cluster and region pages. Next, we will quickly go through each of the individual tabs. The Top Regions tab has the same map at the top as was shown on the summary page. Below the map, you can filter data for the top regions for the Aerospace and Defense cluster by employment, wages, job creation, specialization, timeline, or innovation. As on the summary page, you can choose to view the data by state, economic area, MSA, or county. All of the viewing functionality options that allow you to dig deeper into or expand the data that were previously are available on this page as well, i.e. by clicking on a bar chart or a bubble on a scatter plot. Next is the subclusters page. Below the map is the chart visualizing data from the aerospace and defense subclusters. Similar to the functionality of other charts, you can filter data by a set of core performance indicators and by the year you wish to view. When you select a specific bar, you will be provided an Explore Industries link, as well as a link to that subcluster's dashboard. The Explore Industries link allows you to view the raw data for each of the subclusters, along with their NAICS codes. Finally, there is an organizations page which takes you to a separate page listing all the organizations that have been added to the site that have been tagged as relating to aerospace and defense. You can add an organization by clicking on Add Organization on the top right, or clicking the Community button on the navigation bar at the top of each page, and then View Organizations. This list is user-driven and therefore will continue to grow over time.